to do this. Buddy Patey is with us, and Buddy Patey was elected to the city commission in 1959, right?
True.
1959. Let me scoot that up a little bit, Buddy.
All right, good.
And Buddy is now 91 years of age. Doesn't look it, doesn't act it, still out and about. Extraordinary life, and known by many in this community for his work with young people and in officiating football and basketball and being the head of officials and working with officials in the SEC and the OVC and everything else. And the member of how many Halls of Fame? 8, 9, 10?
8.
8 Halls of Fame.
I've been so blessed, Steve.
Okay. And so many aspects in his life. But we want to go back to his role as a city commissioner in the late 50s and early 60s. I want to preface this and about to play part of a song from Gil Scott-Heron. And then we'll introduce him in just a moment. This is about addiction and the pressures of and everything else. And home is where the hatred is. And he was a poignant writer and poet and just an amazing talent. And this is Gil Scott-Heron. Home is where the hatred is, and that's not light fare at all. That's poignant work of Gil Scott-Heron, reflective of much of his work. How it ties into this music and to this region is that Gil Scott-Heron was one of 3 African American students to integrate Tigard Junior High School back, Buddy, in what year?
1961.
1961. And this is much earlier than many other communities. George Wallace is not standing in the door at the University of Alabama until like 63, I think.
Right.
So you guys made the decision in this city to integrate schools early. What was going on, Buddy?
What was going on? We already had such things, Steve, as the National Guard on the campus at Ole Miss because of James Meredith, which was wrong that they didn't let him in earlier. And then also at Boston, they were having a lot of problems. They were all around the country, not just in the South. And so our very knowledgeable and very with foresight, Bill Diamond, our city attorney, said we should adopt the pupil placement plan. Okay. That meant that a student could apply, and we were the school board. Unusual.
Okay, that's right. The city commission was the school board as well.
School board, 3. Okay. Mr. Toe Bailey was 65, and Mr. Pardon me. Sorry, Steve.
No, that's all right.
Mr. Edmonds, who was a wonderful gentleman, grew up I found out, in Gibson County, didn't get to go to college, was very progressive, became the president of Martha White Mills. And when people implored upon us to run for those offices, I'd been well known. I'd headed up every drive, here I was a young guy doing everything.
Chest and all this stuff back in those days.
Right. And so, anyway, we were the school board. And Bill's so far-sighted as all this was going on, and he knew there would be court cases coming down because it couldn't be done all at once. But Virginia had the pupil placement plan, and we adopted it as Bill adjusted it. Okay. And so we had not only those 3 from Mary Junior High, we had 5 for high school. But Bill was, again, very, very, I guess you'd say, astute, because he said, look, if we transfer those young people to high school, both races, when they're teenagers, they might get into something. Okay. And if they did, it'd ruin everything that we had planned to do.
Because you're pulling them out their academics and their football teams and everything else.
Right, it would. All right. Whereas in the junior high, in fact, you remember the great, he was our detective at that time, but became a sheriff, Warren Roberts.
Okay.
We put Warren over there. We transferred, talked with him privately. We had a very astute, amongst all the principals, Mr. Bill Algie, and talked with him how, except for the good Lord, keeping this secret because we planned it for too much. And Mr. Algie agreed to take over.
These students? Okay.
And then we put, as I said, Warren in there, transferred those 3 students. How we kept it a secret, certainly we want to cooperate with the media. They didn't know it.
Okay.
The police department did. How we kept it, I don't know, because
Wow.
we were concerned, Steve,
So
that
you
if they
integrated
found
the
out
school.
about it,
Okay.
that they would do some very violent things. Those guys
So
that were mean.
Okay. So you integrated the school without anybody knowing this was about to happen.
Exactly.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Only the good
1961.
Lord could have kept it for. And
Okay.
we met on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's one good thing about that. You could get a lot done rather than once a month. And so when the media came for their meeting, we did it on a media day on Tuesday. Another good thing good Lord provided, if there had been some of those, quote, I still say mean people, it poured down rain at school time.
Okay.
So, that dissuaded, but nobody did a thing.
So, buddy,
And-
what happened then when these students show up, when they walk in?
No problem whatsoever. None. In fact, we had, as I said, we had Warren in there,
Right.
and he said it became so boring. We kept him a month till he helped them do the records in the principal's office.
Did everything.
Yeah.
So, how were these three students then selected? How did Gil Scott Heron and these other two become the ones
They were the three who applied.
who applied?
They applied.
Okay.
And
How did word get out in the community that this was going to happen? You obviously opened a processed application, but nobody knows this is going to hit. So how were you able to do that?
only the good Lord, and I'm saying that not
Wow.
pious in any way,
Okay.
because again, nobody in the community knew it was
gonna
happening. They
happen.
knew you could apply.
They
In
kn-
fact, if we had had the white students,
Right.
we would have transferred them to junior high.
Okay.
But again,
Okay.
Bill was so wise, being
Wow.
repetitious. Don't put teenagers together in high school when they're not
So
used
start
to
'em
it.
younger.
They'll get into it.
All right. Gil Scott Heron was born in I think Chicago. Let me
You're
double
right.
double it. But he was living with his grandmother,
Right.
and she would die, and he would go back to live with his mother back in Chicago. But he was here living with his grandmother when all of this was happening. And so was she then? I guess she was the one. Lily Scott was her name, according to the information. Lily Scott was her name in Jackson, Tennessee. And
his grandmother, yes.
Grandmother, okay.
Yeah.
So
And-
she would have been the one to have applied then, or some? I guess so, right?
That would
Have
seem
applied
that
for
he
it.
applied.
Right, okay.
And you know,
Who were the other two?
Oh my goodness, Gilbert Glover,
Gilbert Glover. Okay.
Gil Scott Heron,
Okay.
and you'd think I'd never forget the young lady, because I knew her father.
Okay.
He worked as a postal employee and also did drapes.
Okay.
Before all this happened, he did
Okay.
drapes for people
All over the city. Okay.
How in the world I could forget?
Well-
When I leave here today, I
Well,
give
remember,
it to you
well,
just
that,
like
that
that.
helps me. I'm
Well,
on the way.
she was a fine young lady. In fact, she became a dietitian in Memphis.
Okay.
I remember that. 2 or 3 times she came back. She called me. You
Is
know,
that right?
Because
Wow.
everything was on a very peaceful scale.
So the applications are accepted. These three people apply. Then the city commission, as the school board, makes plans to put them in the school. Okay. They walk in, and no one knew they were coming
No one knew they'd come except the principal.
except the principal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then did they stay the rest of the year?
Oh yes.
Okay.
If it stayed till they moved from there to high school.
Okay. Wow. Amazing thing. This is in 1961.
One.
Okay. The impression then from the city's point of view is that this had been successfully done then, right?
Yes, and one point, Steve.
What kind of reaction did you get, buddy, when people found out? They had to
Well-
have been upset.
Well, I brought you a little thing
Yes.
there. We got threats. My wife got threats here,
Okay.
and but you know, I'm not the bravest fellow in the world. But if somebody calls and tells you they're going to do something to you, they're not going to do it. They're going to do it without telling you. You know.
Okay.
And so Mary got threats at home, and we didn't put any police out there. But as I said, we got that, and I never shall forget. We didn't know. I keep repeating the mean people. I didn't know what might happen. I didn't know
Okay.
if the word had leaked or what, and I drove around all night long, almost all night long till daylight. And again, not pious, observing and praying to
Okay.
see, you know, what would happen.
Happen?
What would happen.
What would happen? What would happen afterward then? Okay. Why did this commission feel compelled to do it? You could have easily said, well, it needs to be done. Well, let's somebody else could run for this office. Let's let the next buds do it.
This article that my friend Greg Hammond wrote
Okay.
about what you might know and tells about my football, but that when I was at the naming of the street for Isaiah Savage,
Right.
he didn't know. He knew me. He had been, when I was off the field and observing for the SEC, Greg was in Lexington as a sportscaster. We met in the press box.
Okay.
Later, he came here, and he is the director of their communication program at Southside, and he put this article together and said all he knew about was football, but he didn't know all about the fact of what I had
happened.
been
Right.
involved in the process of doing what was right, and I put right here that others would do the same thing we did. The Lord just had us be the ones in the right place. And I
Okay.
believe it.
Okay. Buddy Patey is now 91 years of age.
91
Okay.
years old and
Okay.
so blessed.
Okay, and just an extraordinary thing to have opened this this venue and this school and this city in '61. Now, it was going to be, uneasy transitions. They didn't solve things here, but it broke a barrier much earlier than was happening in many other places.
And yes, Steve, interrupting you.
No, sir, not an interruption at all.
Some interesting point. We had our, 3 offices where the net is now. In fact, the old days, City Hall was there, and the comptroller's office was there where you paid your taxes, and then we had the 3 offices for the commissioners and the mayor.
Police department was downstairs, right?
Yeah, and we only had about 8 or 10 sales. Boy, what a wonderful time. And the chief's office was down there.
Okay.
But what I was going to tell you about that time too, Steve, that get back on my train of thought here. There's something very important there I wanted to mention. I jump about here.
While you look for that, let me go back.
Yes.
And Gil Scott Heron was born, according to the information we have, in Chicago, Illinois. His mother was an opera singer who performed with the New York Oratory Society there. And his father, Gil Heron, was a Jamaican football player in the 1950s, football in the sense of soccer. He played for the Celtic Football Club in Glasgow.
Right.
And so he came from a notable and talented family. His parents separated, so he was sent to live in Jackson, Tennessee, with his maternal grandmother, Lily Scott of Jackson. And then when he was 12, his grandmother died, and he returned to live with his mother, who by then had moved to the Bronx in New York City and then enrolled in school there. But this had to have been a definitive experience in his life.
Oh, it had to be. And he became wealthy.
Okay.
I found that out.
Yes.
He became wealthy. The other thing of great interest, it shows, again, the impact. We met, as I said, on Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 o'clock and did the business of the city, then back to our office. Well, we had our private lines that nobody knew but us,
Okay.
except the government knew.
Okay.
So my phone was ringing off the hook. And I picked it up, and it was right at the time when Justice Thurgood Marshall,
Okay.
the first African American on
Supreme Court, right?
Supreme Court. And I said, oh, yes, sir. Justice Thurgood Marshall. No, Burke Marshall, the Attorney General of the United States. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Marshall. He said, Mr. Patey, we have been monitoring your situation down there.
Is that
on
right?
that day.
The Attorney General of the United
Yes.
States. Okay.
And he said, have you had any outside agitators or problems giving you any physical problems? I said, no, sir, not at this point. He said, well, we're going to keep monitoring, but let me give you my private number.
Wow.
And he said, if anything comes up at all, you call me. What an interesting time.
Wow, man, fascinating time. Buddy, thank you for sharing this with us.
Just, I'm so glad God put me there at that time. And you know me, and to sound a lot of people to say, well, he's being hokey. You would have done it, Steve. Numbers of good people would have done it. We were so fortunate to have Bill Diamond, who was so astute so calm and so foresighted, because being repetitious, he knew that if we broke the barrier, then progressively things
That happened.
would come.
Wow. Buddy, thank you.
It's great to be with you, Steve.
Great to be with you. Great to bring this moment. Gil Scott-Heron, as we continue here. Pieces of a Man is what this is called.
Pieces of a man.
That's work of Gil Scott-Heron, who went to Tigert Junior High School
I saw him go to
in 1961 as the work of his grandmother, and then the leadership of the city. And this heavy duty stuff. And when you listen to Gil Scott-Heron, he still played a lot on jazz radio and all that, but know that he has direct ties, formative experience, one of 3 African American students, the first ones to walk in the doors of Tigert Junior High School here in Jackson, Tennessee. You've thought of the name of the young lady.
Madeline Carter.
Madeline Carter. Okay, so we want to add that. Buddy, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you, Steve, for having me.
I appreciate it so much. Yes. This music of this city is extraordinary, and we have a part in a lot of different things, the life experiences out there, and we'll do some more of this. Buddy, thank you for sharing this time. We got some work to catch up on, and Jimmy Duke's going to be doing the show for the next couple of days. Jimmy Exum, a lot of other people are going to be guests, and we're just glad to be a part of this, sharing the life and the music that will never die. And this is music of Jackson, Tennessee on Blue Suede Forever.